You know, I'm no barista, and technically this is not the normal tech product that I look at Geekazine, but before you geek out, you need coffee. And that's what we're going to talk about with this. This is the Gemilai Espresso Maker, the 3007L series, and it is a step up from the consumer grade espresso makers out there. I had a smaller one, and when I got this one, I was so impressed. I can't wait to show you guys all about this. And we're gonna do that next on Geekazine. What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers from Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek, where you can like, subscribe, comment, and bell notifications so you know when the next video comes out. This is the Gemilai 3007L coffee maker, espresso maker, anything you want maker right here in this little machine. It's an amazing machine. And like I said, I did have another espresso maker that is a great maker in itself, but it didn't have half the features that this one does. And that's what I really like about it, because I can have coffee my way. We can make specialty drinks and really dig down and feel like this is actually a coffee bar. I have the coffee ground up, and we're gonna make a couple different cups. I'm gonna show you a couple different features for this. Of course, I do have to tell you, Gemilai did send me products to review, but they're not sponsoring this video. All opinions are of my own. I do have a review section that talks about all of that over at geekazine.com/review. And of course, if you would like me to review one of your products, go ahead and go to the contact section and we'll get it in the shop and review it from there. Let's take a look at all of the cool features of the Gemilai. Basically, it's just a standard coffee making espresso bar. We have a lot of different options here. Let's look at it close up and then we'll turn it on and we'll make a couple cups of coffee. In the back, we do have the water tank, which is about 6 cups of water that go in the back here. And watch out if when you start pouring stuff into the water tank, if you miss, you just get a little bit of water. You just got to clean it up. Anyway, on the front, we got the magic right here. I'll show you everything. We got 3 buttons here. First of all, we got the power button. This is a set button, so you can actually change the settings, but then every time you make that cup of coffee, you hit that button and you can kind of forget it at that point. This one is more of a, hey, I want a little bit more coffee. I want to make it my way, not normally from here. And so you just press this button and it'll start, and then of course you press it and it'll stop. Over here we have the temperature gauge, and then down here we have a dial, which of course goes for the steamer stick, which is down here. We've got the area where the coffee grounds go. You put your portafilter in here. I'll show you how to do that. We've got the steamer one right there with a nice little silicone handle, because this can get warm, so you want to keep it to the touch. And then of course we have a filter tray down here. We do have a pressure valve right here, and then there's a very important little dial right here that I want you to be aware of. Let's take a look at all the attachments that you get with the Gemilai. All right, so here's all the attachments, and what you get is, this is called a portafilter, and it's got a couple different options to it. You can take off the handle, screw it off like that, put it back on. You've got the main cup where the water will come in, of course the coffee will come out. On the bottom you have a little separator, and of course that screws off, and you could actually put different attachments on, but this is the only attachment that you get with the portafilter. We got 2 cups that go into the portafilter, depending on what type of coffee you make. And of course they make a nice little sound too. You've got a basic little scooper. It's actually got a scooper and a tamper, but I use that as a stand because it does come with a better tamper. We'll set that right here. We got a little brush to clean out coffee grounds, a little scooper to kind of pick out those coffee beans. If you grind your own coffee, there's always going to be a bean or 2 that's left over. We got this little rubber cleaning pad right here. We got the tamper itself. As you can see, it's a little plastic on the top. It's metal here. It's got a nice weight to it, so you can really tamp down the coffee grounds. And then we get 2 different screwdrivers. Now this is interesting because with these 2 different screwdrivers, you need to keep these close by, especially if you're replacing these cups, because there's no other way to replace them to then pull them out. Because what you're gonna do, we're gonna take this cup first. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pop these in like so, and they will clamp in just like that. And the only way to really get them out is to take the screwdriver and pry it out like that. So we'll put it back together, and there we go. We now have the means to get everything going for our coffee. We've got this little dial. I told you about this, and this is where the screwdrivers also come in. This is going to help with the pressure, and it really depends on how you want your coffee and how much pressure you want in there so the coffee gets to your liking. I'm not exactly sure of how all that works, but I have been playing around with it, and I've got this dialed into what I like for coffee and what we like for espresso in the morning, because sometimes we'll have a little itty bitty cup of coffee like this. Little itty bitty. Let's talk about how we get the cup of coffee started. First of all we have to do is hit the power button. We're gonna hear a noise. Notice right here we have a temperature gauge. That temperature gauge will go up to 203 degrees Fahrenheit. This is also controllable, so if you push on this, this will give you different options here. It's warming up right now, so we'll control that in a minute. Now, what we wanna do is we wanna take our coffee and we want to get it into the cup. So basically, I'll grab my coffee right here. I just ground up a whole bunch of it. And I like to grind the coffee. I found out, as I did my research, I found out that it's best to get beans and get yourself a coffee grinder, because grinding the coffee then and there gives you the aroma and the flavor all there. Whereas pre-ground beans usually lose their aroma after time, and of course you'll have a less flavorful cup of coffee there. So what we did was we just put the coffee in here. It's there loosely. What we could do is we could take the brush and move it around, and if we did see an errant coffee bean, we could kind of scoop it out from there. But everything looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tamper and I'm going to bring this down. I like to spin it a couple times. That kind of evens it out. But then however you want to tamp it, and of course get the loose coffee off of there. And then when it's all ready, when it's all said and done, go ahead and put it into the machine. Now the first time I did this was super tough to do. You definitely want to hold on the side here as you pull this open and closed, because it will move around depending on what you have counterwise. One thing to notice as we're going, this is very important, because I didn't know that this was happening, and all of a sudden this tray started overflowing. As this is warming up, down in the bottom, it's actually dripping water. As it's warming up, there is a release valve down here, and water is gathering up in this tray right now. So keep that in mind. You're gonna definitely have to empty this tray a little bit. Of course, it's also relieving some of the pressure, which is very important. I think that's where that screw comes in. Keep that in mind, because after a few times making coffee, you'll notice that's starting to fill up. As you can see, we're at 203 Fahrenheit. I held down this button. This is called the wait time. You'll see a P10 flash, and of course it's gonna go away. This is the amount of time that you want it to steep inside of the coffee, the portafilter. Now what happens is, when you push this button, it will wait 10 seconds. We can add more seconds, we can subtract seconds to it. I like 10 seconds for that. So what happens is a little bit of water goes into the portafilter. It will hold for 10 seconds as I set up, and then it'll make the cup of coffee. You can change that around, so if you wanted to kind of the water getting into the grounds a little bit more or a little bit less, that's your choice, and you can definitely customize this for this. So basically, when I press this button right here, what it's gonna do is it's gonna put a little bit of water in, it's gonna wait 10 seconds. It also gives the chance for the water to heat up over here back to 203 degrees, and then it's going to pour the cup of coffee. You could also set the amount of time that the coffee pours from here. How do you do that? Well, in this case, this sets the time for the hold, but you hold down this button and then it will start to count up into this top level here. And then you wait until the number that you desire happens, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever, and then let go from there. Keep in mind, whatever cup you have underneath this thing is very important, because you might overfill the cup if you wait too long. But I have 30 seconds on here, and so that's what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 2 cups, and this is for a lazy Sunday morning. We'll have some sugar in there, might have some milk in there, maybe might have some flavoring in there. You can do a lot of different things. You could get a bag of cherries and cut the cherries up and put them in there. You could, or other fruits, or cinnamon, or anything like that to kind of give it a different flavor. There is a chart that comes with it that tells you the different types of coffees that you can make. So you can experiment with all the different types and have some fun with it. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, we're simply going to do the first one. So we're gonna hold down, or just press this button once. It's gonna do the 1 second fill into the portafilter. So there's a little bit of water sitting in there, getting everything ready. And now what it's doing is it's pouring the coffee. Get that lined up a little bit more. There we go. It smells pretty good. All right, so it was 30 seconds, and 30 seconds gives you this. So a perfect little espresso or anything like that. We can then put our milk in, we can then steam it. So if you want to have a little bit more coffee, all you have to do is hit this button again. It'll do another 30 seconds, or you can just press this and it'll start to make more coffee. And then you can watch the count up, and let's say we want to go another 10 seconds. So we'll do that. Then you hit the button again, and it will stop. So now we have a little bit more coffee. Of course, this just made 2 cups. So I can have an espresso, my wife can have an espresso, and we can enjoy from there. Now, the other thing we could do is we could actually add some milk to this. And that's where the wand comes in. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get some milk, and I highly recommend you get a pitcher and of course the temperature gauge. And you can get these almost any place that sells these types of coffee makers. And we will put our milk in, experiment with different types of milks, of course. And then I'm going to put my temperature gauge back in here because I want to see how warm I can get it. All we're going to do is we're going to turn this dial to turn it on. It's going to start the steaming process. And my understanding is you do this to let the steam in, steam out. Be very careful because steam is hot. And then when you get to the point where you like it, you can stop it, move that out of the way, and now you have steamed milk. Now, what we can do is we can put it into our coffee. And once again, I'm not going to do any barista type stuff. And there you go. You have milk and coffee, basically. We're gonna set those aside, and we're gonna make another cup of coffee. Good old-fashioned American coffee, as most people overseas say it. So we will do that next. But before we do, hey, there's a lot of great ways that you can support Geekazine. One is by tipping me over at venmo.com/Geekazine or paypal.me/Jeff Powers. The links are down in YouTube there. But you can also get some of the shirts. We have the shirts on Teespring, and I also have the shirts on Amazon.com. And we have many great shirts that you can get, like for instance, the original Geek AI shirt, a couple different variations on that. And then of course we have I Like Geeky Butts and I Cannot Lie, one of my favorite shirts. 80s Jesus Saved Me One Floppy at a Time. Great shirt right there. And then Guardian of the Geekery, and then a whole bunch more. We're adding new shirts, including the new one, which I haven't gotten yet because it's so new, and that is Before I Geek Out, coffee. So go ahead and get the shirts. It supports the channel, supports my travels to places like CES and the other conferences, so I can get the interviews and get the products to review, so I can get you the rundown of what's going on. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. This is how I make my cup of coffee. First of all, we're going to take this off because I don't need it. And we're just going to set it up here. The height difference on this to this will not fit this cup. So if I bring this cup in here, it kind of fits in, but I have to really work at it. It's kind of tough. So I ended up getting one of these, which also has the ability to actually see how many ounces of coffee you have in here. And especially when this little guy is attached to it, I can then put this underneath. So if you got a big mega cup, like I said, overseas, they basically say the American coffee. This is basically how I do it if I want to have a little bit more than just a small cup of coffee. So in this case, I'm going to use that middle button. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press this, and I'm going to wait 3 seconds on this. 1, 2, 3, right there. A little bit of coffee drips down there, and that's fine. So that's why you have to have something underneath to catch that little bit of coffee. Now I'm letting it warm back up here. And then also I'm getting things ready. I'm usually putting the milk and all whatever I need into the cup here. I like to pour the coffee on top of the milk instead of do the steam a lot of times. So it takes about 10 seconds. So now we can go ahead and press this button again. And now I'm gonna wait about 35 seconds for the coffee. It's not as pretty when you have that little splitter on there, but it still does the job. All right, about 35 seconds. There we go. Now keep in mind, this is also getting a little bit warm, but it will not get past a point where it will burn your fingers if you're touching it. So now we've got our coffee. Pull that out, and I'll go ahead and put it into my cup. And we're good to go. And now I'm gonna have my, well, afternoon coffee in this case. Very good. And like I said, there's a lot of ways to experiment. You can have a lot of fun with it. A morning espresso, an afternoon coffee, an Americano, a latte. You get different types of beans, different ways to grind the beans. That's another reason why you want to get a grinder. You want to have the fine grind, you want to have a coarse grind. That's going to make a difference on how the coffee is going to taste for you. Some of you are probably saying, it's always going to taste like yuck. I totally understand that. Growing up, I didn't drink coffee. I didn't get into coffee until I was in my 30s, I think it was. Now I enjoy a good cup of coffee, and it's amazing. You can go overseas. I went to Barcelona. I've been to Italy, I've been to Korea. I always try to have the coffees there and see what types of coffee beans they're roasting, how they're roasting it. You can even get that deep, is roasting your own beans, grinding your own beans, and making your own coffee. That, once again, is the Gemilai G3007L. The only real con to it, like I said, is the water will drip down in here. You gotta watch out for it, make sure it doesn't overflow. There is a little bit of cleaning. Yes, the portafilter, you're gonna need a good can to hold the grinds. You don't wanna put your coffee grinds into the sink. You're definitely gonna have to wash it out. So wipe it down with a cloth or something like that. And then have an area where you can dispose of the grinds as well. So that's it for this one, the Gemilai G3007L espresso maker. And of course, the price is about $499. Great holiday gift if you're looking to find something for a friend, for a family member, and they're kind of coffee snobs, but they have those cup things. I don't understand. Like I said, I'm not a coffee snob, but I know I don't like the coffee pods. So anyway, that's it for me over at Geekazine. You can find me over at geekazine.com, youtube.com/Geekazine, where you can like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification so you know all those YouTubers get their wings. And of course, you'll get to see in the next Geekazine video. Until next time, before you geek out, coffee. Oh, I'm going to be up until midnight.